Hey guys, what's up and welcome to today's video. I woke up at 3 a.m. extremely thirsty and thinking about video ideas. Sometimes it's so random. I will wake up in the middle of the night and I just start thinking about my channel and different types of videos and different topics that I can do that is outside of makeup reviews. Now, don't get me wrong, I love testing new products, but every once in a while I like to do things that are different and a little bit outside of that. I really actually truly enjoy tutorials. I love teaching. I love training. It's something that I have just always loved to do. I am by no means a makeup expert, but I have done a lot of testing of product in my day. I have always had a strong interest in makeup. Before YouTube and before any of this was available to us, I was reading 17 magazine, Teen Vogue, always looking at the beauty section, reading about different products. I've always just been heavily invested in it. I think that this particular video is perfect for beginners or those who are just not super confident in makeup. They're not quite sure what product to use, what product would be best for their skin type. Makeup is not necessarily a one size fits all. I really do believe, obviously, that there are products that are going to work better for some than others based on ingredients and all that kind of fun stuff. So we are going to dive headfirst into it. We are going to go deep. We are going to start with the base. We're going to work our way up all the way into eyeshadow. We're going to go through the whole thing. I'm going to give you guys different product examples. And again, I'm really going to focus on skin type. This is going to be for really any age. This is just going to be kind of your go-to guide for everyday makeup and where to go when you go to purchase product. And we'll kind of give you an idea of how to help kind of break it down and really figure out what products will be worth trying and what will really work with your skin type. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and jump into it and let's go ahead and put on some makeup together. All right, now primer to me is always kind of a little bit of a controversial thing. There are many people who really don't believe in primers. To be honest with you, I don't use them a whole lot. I have tried so many different ones and I don't see a huge difference in my makeup. I just like to find something personally because I have dry skin that will further hydrate my skin. Maybe someone that has just a hint of dimethicone in it, just kind of fill in some pores and to just kind of make the skin look a little bit flawless. So if you're someone like me, you're definitely going to want to either really make sure your skin is extremely moisturized and hydrated before laying down any type of makeup. That alone is perfect for primer. If you want to go ahead and go a step further and really fill in some pores, you can go for a more silicone or dimethicone based primer. The Smashbox Photo Finish Primer is fantastic. One that I personally enjoy that actually will work in harmony with my dry skin is the Cover FX Blurring Primer. This is a fantastic one. But again, if you are someone who is dry, you definitely want to make sure that you have your base hydrated first and foremost, and then only go in the areas where you tend to be oily if you are combination or where your pores are more prominent. Chances are, if you have more prominent pores anywhere on the skin, chances are that's where you are more likely to develop any type of oil. So really, if you are combo or more dry, you want to stick with these types of primers only to the area where you feel like you have larger pores, more blemishes, that sort of thing. Now, some examples of some extremely good hydrating primers if you want to step outside of just a moisturizer and you would like to use something extra. The Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base is fantastic. Now, this one is very rich, very hydrating. So if you are much more on the dehydrated, dry side, this is something that you would really enjoy. For someone who has more sensitive skin, if you tend to have a little bit more redness, I definitely would suggest the Physicians Formula Organic Wear Mineral Primer with Cactus Flower. This has a very slight green tint to it. It is not much at all, but I do find on days where my skin is just a little bit red, especially in this area, a primer like this is extremely helpful because not only is it hydrating, but it gives me a beautiful base that also helps kind of tone down the redness. It has jojoba oil in it, which again is very calming to the skin. So again, another good one. Just some examples of some primers for you guys, just to kind of give you an idea, a basis, different price points that you can go ahead and check out. So today I'm going to be using the Juno & Co. Moonshine Cream. My skin is so incredibly dry lately. I think I need to switch up my cleanser because, whew, she's dry. I even have a little bit of dermatitis going on right here, which is really unfortunate, but yeah, I need more moisture. So I just take cream-based primers. I like to take just like a dollop of it, and I really like to warm it up in my hands like this or on my fingertips, and then gently massage it into the skin. I like to bring this all the way up underneath the eyes. And my cheeks tend to be where I am the most dry, and like in this area right here. around the nose. I'm gonna bring it up just a little bit on the forehead, but not much. I did want the majority of that product to really be on the cheeks. And again, in the areas where I'm most dry right now. Perfect, so we will let that sink in while we are waiting for that primer to really get into the skin and set. Let's go ahead and talk foundations. If you are oily or acne prone, my biggest suggestion for you is to find a foundation that specifically says that not only is it oil free, but you also want something that is non-comedogenic. If you're not familiar with what non-comedogenic means, it means that there are no oils or ingredients in it that are considered to be pore clogging. So if you, again, are someone oily, acne prone, stay far away from foundations that are heavily oil based. Or if you prefer something like that, just look at the ingredients and make sure that they are oils that are going to be non-pore clogging. Things like rosehip oil, squalene, those types of things. Those are some oils. Safflower oils, those are some that tend to be a little bit less, or even actually non-comedogenic, I should say, so they will not clog your pores. Coconut oil, that one specifically is almost a big no-no. I know sometimes coconut oil can be described as something that is an antimicrobial, which means it helps with bacteria growth on the skin, but it can clog your pores. I'm personally sensitive to it, and I try my best to steer very clear from coconut oil in my products. So just some tips for you. A good one, I would say, if you are on the more acne prone side, is the Anastasia Luminous Foundation. This is an oil-free foundation, and it is non-comedogenic. Another one is the Dose of Colors Meet Your Hue, another oil-free product. And then I would say for combo skin, the Shiseido Synchro Skin Self-Refreshing is a great one. One more I also want to say for if you have dry skin, combination skin, the L'Oreal Infallible 24-Hour Fresh Wear is fantastic because this formula is extremely breathable. Now this one I will say be careful because there is fragrance in this. So if you are sensitive to fragrances, you want to steer clear of that. I do want to mention that if you have more mature skin, or if you have skin, again, that is sensitive, prone to redness, you have rosacea, try not to use products that have a ton of fragrance in it. So beware, just always look at ingredients. Last but not least, another good one is the Physicians Formula Healthy Foundation. I enjoy this. If you are someone who just wants kind of a medium buildable coverage, this one is fantastic. I will say though that this one does give quite a glowy finish after a while. So if you're on the oily side, you might not necessarily love that one. Today we are going to be using the Dose of Colors Foundation because I'm a huge fan of the ingredients. I don't believe that there's any alcohols in it. There's really no fragrance added in. And again, there's no oils, no pore clogging ingredients. I'm going to go ahead and use a beauty blender to apply today. When the winter months or the cooler, drier months approach, I do prefer a blender. If you are someone who has dry skin and you prefer to use a brush, I suggest just spritzing your brush with either some finishing spray, like a Fix Plus, something like that, or even just spraying it with a little bit of water. Getting the brush somewhat damp will just help your skin from getting too dry from the product because brushes absorb so much from the skin. At least that's what I've noticed. I love the Wet n Wild sponges. They're like $3 and I think they work fantastically, but I do really love the beauty blenders as well. While I'm blending out my foundation, I will give you another trick. You want to apply the heaviest of your foundation to the center of the face. If you noticed, I always will squirt the foundation or pump the foundation on the back of my hand. I will dot it here and then I will work my way out because I tend to be more red in the center of my face. That's where most of my pigmentation is, and that's where I'm going to want most of the product to sit. Now, less is more with foundation. If you're not using a product that is super full coverage like this one, and it's one that you want to build up, I would definitely suggest starting out with a thinner layer. We are not icing a cake. We don't want to slather on the frosting, so to speak. You want to imagine almost like you're painting your nails. It's the same thing. We all know what happens when you glob on too much nail polish. It never dries down. It gets cakey. It's too much. And then you've got a mess. I always say less is more. Start off with less. Blend it out, and if you need to add more to areas that need more coverage, then you can go ahead and layer up. If you have more mature skin, you have areas that have fine lines and wrinkles, put foundation on those areas last. If you have more lines here, more prominent lines in the forehead, Go through your entire base. I am talking concealer, foundation, do the whole thing, and then come here once you're done with that and do this last. That way you've got less movement going on. You're not going like this, trying to get product under here, which causes that foundation to really collect in those fine lines. So do that part of your face last. I personally love this Dose of Colors foundation because it offers amazing coverage without being too drying, without being too thick and heavy, and usually one pass is good enough. I get all the coverage I need. Another important thing with picking out a foundation is to really learn your undertones. Yellow skin tones, I tend to fall more on the warm side, so I have a yellow undertone. I will tend to lean towards foundations that either blatantly say that they are yellow or have a golden undertone. That is what I go towards. And honestly, when you're matching your foundation, go off of your neck. That is what you want to match. I see people in Sephora and Ulta all the time and they're putting foundation right here and they're trying to match this. Well, you're super red right here. Typically, you might have some uneven skin tone, some uneven pigmentation going on in the cheek area. And that's just not the best way to match your foundation. Pick your neck or even your chest. That is where you want to match your foundation. All right, so now that we have our foundation sufficiently blended out, I'm happy with this level of coverage. So for concealers, I have several different examples in front of me. If you have more aged under eyes, dehydrated, dry, if you have more fine lines, wrinkles, crow's feet, that sort of thing, you want to go for a more hydrating formula. My favorite is going to be the Milani Conceal and Perfect. This is not matte, this is not dewy, it is satin finished and it blends out beautifully. It layers beautifully and I think it is perfect for so many different skin types. You would definitely love this product and it's super affordable. It's like $10. You can get it at the drugstore. Ulta sells it as well. It is fantastic. Another good one is the CoverGirl or the CG Smoothers. This comes like in a stick form. This one is fantastic as well if you have under eyes that are a little bit more on the dry side. And this one's really nice too because it blends out beautifully and does not exaggerate anything on the under eye area. Another one I would say definitely for more aged skin or if you have more fine lines, the Shiseido Concealer, the Synchro Skin that just launched not too long ago. I absolutely love this concealer and it gives you beautiful long wearing coverage. It is not the cheapest, but this one I do believe will give you a lot of bang for your buck. I think it works for a ton of different skin types. Like I said, a very big winner for those who may have more aged or more dry, crepey, more fine lines on the under eyes. Now, if you are someone who has combination skin, you don't have dry under eyes, you've got a good hydrated base going on, you can go for one of these three here, and these are all going to be very full coverage. The first one I want to talk about and what I'll probably be using today is the Jeffree Star Magic Star Concealer. This one is high coverage, blends like a dream, but is not too drying. It is more of a matte finish, but it doesn't dry out the under eyes. This stuff lasts incredibly long as well once you set it. It doesn't really crease. It's an absolutely beautiful concealer. Another one is the L'Oreal Infallible Full Wear Concealer. This is a total dupe, if you ask me, for Tarte Shape Tape. Direct dupe. These are the most similar that I have found, and it's the most comparable to Shape Tape. There are so many people who are like, oh, you know, this is a total dupe for Shape Tape. No, this is the only one I have found thus far that will offer the same amount of coverage that Tarte's concealer does. The only thing with these I would be careful, less is more. If you apply way too much of this, you're gonna have a dry, cakey mess. We don't want that. For these two products, if this is what you choose and you want that very high coverage, applying it right here, starting here, that's it. Blend it outwards. You're gonna get beautiful coverage. We do not need to do the giant Instagram triangles under the eyes. Just way too much makeup, not necessary. And if you ask me, it's a total waste. All right, so I'm gonna be using the Jeffree Star Magic Star Concealer, and I should tell you guys what colors I am using. In the Dose of Colors foundation, I'm using the shade 115 Light Medium, and in this concealer from Jeffree Star, this is C13. I even feel like I could go slightly darker in this, but that's all right. We are brightening things up. I start here. So you guys can see I am so red right here. It doesn't matter how much foundation. I don't dip back in, and I like to drag just a bit out. I like to conceal the top of my lids with this as well. One thing that I love about the Jeffree Star Concealer is the applicator on this. It's a kind of like a pointed doe foot applicator, but it's got a hole in the center that holds the product, and it just evenly distributes it all over the face, and it just looks beautiful. Go back in with my beauty blender, or I should say my Wet n Wild sponge. I'm just gonna blend that out. Sometimes I like to drag that all the way down around the nose because, again, this is where I'm most red. Take the excess and go down this way. My nose ring always likes to twist when I'm doing my foundation and my concealer, just to kind of make sure I can get the most coverage on the redness. All right, let's go ahead and move on to cream products. Now, this section definitely applies to my fellow dry guys and gals out there. So for me personally, I am really into cream bronzers, cream contours. They just melt so beautifully in the skin and give the most natural looking shadows and warmth to the face. I am just a huge fan of this. I'm gonna go over several options here for you. So first off, for a contour, my all-time favorite, if you have light, medium skin, this is the perfect shade for you. This is a Fenty Matchstick in the shade Mocha. It's not too warm, not too cool. It creates the most perfect shadow on the face. Now, if you're not into contouring and you just don't like to get into all of that, honestly, your bronzer can get the job done for you as well. Now, if you have more oily skin, definitely check out the Milk Makeup Matte Bronzer. I have mine in the shade Baked. It looks luminous when you first apply it, but it does dry down pretty matte. And this shade is perfect as well. If you have lighter skin tones, you will love this. You can contour with this shade as well. If you have a little bit of a deeper skin tone, this does come in a deeper shade as well. God, I wish they had more shade options. To my knowledge, I think there's only 2 at this point. Correct me if I'm wrong. But again, if you have more medium, darker skin tone, more of a tan, you can definitely go ahead and go up to the darker shade. A more affordable option is the Physicians Formula Organic Wear. This is their sculpting bronzer with jojoba oil. Another one that I suggest if you have more dry skin. But as you can see, it's very close to that Fenty shade up there, a little bit lighter, a little bit more warm, but very close. It's kind of like if you were to mix these two together here, you would end up with this shade, but this one is perfect for bronzing and contouring as well. Last but not least, if you want to just go in with a bronzer, this is a product that I'm a little bit newer to, but I am completely obsessed with, and what I am going to be using today, this is the Soleil Tan de Chanel. This is a bronzing base, they call it. This is beautiful. The shade of this is just so stunning and gorgeous. It has just a hint of luminosity to it. If you look very closely, there is just like the most fine micro reflex in this. It is barely noticeable, but it's just like this creamy, beautiful bronzer. And some days I just don't feel like totally using a separate contouring product and then going in with a bronzer. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use the bottom of my Wet n Wild sponge right here. I'm just gonna pick up a little bit of this, again, starting out with less, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and dab this on the cheeks. Now I start back here and I look at the natural hollow of my cheek, as I can see right here. I wanna slightly go above that because I wanna give a lifted finish. I don't wanna go below that because that can actually drag the face down. As you can see, it's just lightly giving me some bronze. Gonna start back here and come forward, but not all the way to the apple of my cheek. And again, I can always pick up more if I want more of a product, but it's just giving me this beautiful bronze, this natural shadow. This product is totally worth the price tag. So I'm gonna pick up a little bit more and I'm lightly dabbing onto the skin. If you want to go with a powder bronzer or a powder contour, I love the Smashbox contours. I just think that they are spot on with their shades and their undertones. One of my favorites is from a holiday collection last year. I've talked about this on my channel recently, but this is my favorite powder contour. I'll show you guys. It's a spotlight kit, so it has contour and highlights in here as well. But these two shades mixed together are just the contour of my dreams. My sister actually, who is an esthetician, she loves the Smashbox contour kits as well. I just think that they are fantastic. Pick up a little bit more and I'm gonna put some of that bronzer right up here at the taller points of my forehead, I'll say it. When you're thinking about bronzer and contour, you wanna go where you would see natural shadowing, or anywhere that you want to make something appear smaller. So right here on my forehead, this is where I want to create shadows. If you are someone who has more aged or mature skin, right here is where you start to experience some kind of sinking in. You do not want to do the whole 3 thing like this. Nothing wrong with contouring on the jawline or right here, but creating shadow right here will only exaggerate where we are starting to lose volume and shape. Sometimes I do like to set this down with a bit of a powder bronzer. If I do go in and do that, my choice right now is the Fenty Shady Biz Sunstalker bronzers. I can't suggest these enough. The undertones of these are spot on. They don't pull too red. They don't pull too cool. They're just fantastic. Now, as far as a brush goes with this, I try to find something that is very loosely packed or something that I can stipple onto the skin like this, so I can just get a nice sheer wash of color and nothing that lays down too heavy. You can go as heavy as you want with the bronzer. I like things to look very blended. I go with the light hand. I dip into my pan 1 or 2 times, tap off the excess, swirl or stipple, and again, keeping it up this way so that I'm not falling below here. I want my cheekbones to look defined. Bronzer, contour or not, that's what I'm looking for. Now I will dip in just 1 more time, 1 or 2 more times. I will just pinch my brush like this and very lightly contour the sides of the nose just to elongate the nose. Now my nose I feel is wide this way, so I try to focus on the sides here just to give myself a shadow to make my nose appear a little bit smaller and more shapely. And I'll go right on the tip like that. Perfect. Now you can also, another trick for contouring, if you have smaller, thinner lips, you can drag your bronzer right underneath here and it will just give you more of a shadow, give your lip a flip, and just give you the illusion of a more full bottom lip. So let's go ahead and move on to setting powder. So we definitely need to set the under eyes. And I have several different options for setting powder. If you are oily, the Laura Mercier Translucent Setting Powder is going to be your best friend. I do have dry skin and I can pull this off, but I have to be very careful with it. If you are someone who is extremely dry or you have more aged skin, the Hourglass Translucent Setting Powder, the Veil Powder right here, is going to be perfect for you. Now, don't be afraid to use different setting powders on different parts of the face. Sometimes I will take a different setting powder under the eyes and then put something more illuminating or more luminous on my cheeks and other areas of the face where I don't want things to be so set, if that makes any sense. And all over face powder, universal under eyes, all over the face that will just give you a poreless, beautiful finish is the Glossier Wowder. This is a fantastic setting powder, one and done, but my all-time favorite is the Jeffree Star Magic Star Setting Powder. This is what we will be using today. Less is more. I like to take this type of brush right here, or you can go in with your blender and just pick up some powder and press it into the skin as well. If you're someone who's very dry, I would definitely suggest that. But I'm going to go ahead and use a brush and I'm just going to gently pick up a little bit of that powder. I'm going to swirl it around, get it into the brush until there's really nothing left in the cap. Tap off the excess, make sure I don't have any creasing on my under eyes. And I'm just gonna go ahead and pat that where I put my concealer, just a little bit. When it comes to powder, less is more. This is how you avoid cakiness. Now you can bake with this powder. Even if you have dry skin, this is a beautiful powder to bake with. Since my skin is more on the dry side, I'm gonna go ahead and just stick with patting on a little bit. I'm gonna pat some on the lids as well because this is how I'm also priming my eyes. That is why I put some of the concealer on my eyes as well. And I just go around the areas where I tend to be a little bit more oily, and then I'll just pat the excess all over the face. So far, I feel like I just have this flawless, beautiful base right now, despite the fact that I've got some dermatitis going on, that my skin is very dry, I've got some texture. These products just work so beautifully for my skin that it just looks beautiful. No one would ever know that I have skin issues right now because the products that I have chosen work so well with my skin that things are just looking beautiful. Now, if you want to use blush, go for it. One of my favorites is the Physicians Formula Organic Wear Dewy Blush Elixir. This is a fantastic one. If you prefer a powder, I love the Hourglass blushes. I don't use these a lot in my videos because, well, I don't use blush a whole lot. The Alamar Cosmetics Colorette Blush Trios are fantastic as well. They are beautiful. If you want more of a matte blush, I think I have it here. The Milani blushes, these are fantastic. The powder blushes, they are beautiful. I love those as well. The Tarte Amazonian Clay blushes, like these right here, are awesome blushes as well. They are super long wearing. So just some options for blushes. A nice affordable blush is the Essence Satin Touch. So if you want something that has a little bit more of a sheen, more of a satin finish, these are beautiful as well. I have the shade Satin Love and I absolutely love it. I think I'm just going to use a little bit of this Hourglass palette right here. I'm going to take this Luxie brush. This is technically a tapered highlighting brush, but we're using it for blush today. I'm going to pick up this pink shade right here. I'm going to go in with a very light hand, a little bit right here. I want like the lightest hit. As you can tell, barely picked up any product, but it gave me a beautiful finish. All right, we are now finally at highlighting. Now this is my favorite part of my makeup routine. I feel like my skin just comes back to life when I am ready to put on my highlighter. I have so many different highlights that I absolutely just love and adore, but I'm going to tell you my favorites are the ColourPop Super Shock highlights. These are my favorites, and I also love the Jeffree Star Skin Frost and Supreme Frost. I think that these are beautiful highlights, but today I'm going to be using the ColourPop. Now, what you want for a highlight is something color-wise that literally mimics when you look into the light, the sunlight. You can see what that color looks like right here on the tip of your nose. When you turn your face, what does it look like? So I try to go for more champagne-y shades, things with just a little bit of a warm golden undertone. One of my favorites is the shade Thimble from ColourPop. I'll swatch this for you guys so you can see. It's just the most natural, beautiful, reflective highlight. If you have more light or fair skin, the shade Flexitarian you will love. This one is like the ultimate glow. Absolutely beautiful. Sometimes I will mix highlights as well. Don't be afraid of that. The Jeffree Star Skin Frost in Lavender Snow has been one of my favorites as of recently. Again, a very bright highlight as well. So today we're going to be using Thimble, and I like to apply this with my fingers. I just take one swipe like that, and I will dab this right on the high points of the cheek. Sometimes I like to bring it down here just to bring back some of that light. I don't want to go overboard. See, when the light hits it perfectly, I just get that beautiful glow. You can go heavy on this if you would like, but me personally, for this type of look, I just want a very natural finish. I'm not a huge fan of bringing my highlight all the way around here. I just feel like it's a little bit too much. I like to stick to the high points of my cheek, tip of the nose, down the bridge of the nose. Sometimes I'll go right here with this, a little bit on the Cupid's bow, just take the excess on the chin, above the brow area. Effortless, beautiful, simple glow. Now we kind of want to set everything down before we go into an eye look. Now, setting sprays can be a little bit tricky actually, if you ask me, because sometimes it can either really dehydrate and dry out the skin and things can just look really bad and chalky and it's not really setting anything down. So again, you want to go by your skin type. Are you dry, combination, or oily? If you are more on the dry side, the Physicians Formula Organic Nutrient Mist, this is beautiful. The Pretty Fresh Hyaluronic Acid Setting Mist from ColourPop, I have been loving this one as well. Normal combination skin, even oily skin, I would say, can get away with setting things down with the MAC Fix Plus. This is a classic favorite. If you are just straight up oily, I would say the Urban Decay All Nighter. Now, if I really want to use this because I want my makeup to last all night long, I will spritz my face first with something that is more hydrating, and then I will go in with the All Nighter. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and use some Fix Plus. I love the mist on this. Go about 8 to 10 inches away, and I want to keep things moving as I'm spritzing because obviously I don't want a ton of product spraying heavily in one area. I love when I spray it, when I put down my setting spray, because then my highlight really just starts to pop and looks beautiful. I absolutely love it. All right, so for an eye look, we are going to go very neutral and natural. I'm going to be dipping into my Urban Decay Naked Reloaded palette. I chose this palette because, again, it's just got these beautiful neutral shades in here. This will work for a ton of different skin tones. Another good palette is the KKW the Cocoa Mattes. I am a huge fan of this one. If you just want all matte shades, tons of different skin tones can use this. This is a beautiful collection of matte shades. Something a little bit more affordable is the Alter Ego Sahara palette. I absolutely love this one as well. This has a ton of beautiful neutral shades in it as well, and you get a lot of bang for your buck. Now, I already primed my lids with some concealer and powder, so we're just going to stick with that. If you have more oily eyelids, definitely go in with an actual eyeshadow primer. The Luscious Angel Eyes eyeshadow primer base, I have ranted and raved about this on my channel for so long. It is such a good primer, and my goodness, does it make your eyeshadows pop. So I'm going to take this BH Cosmetics number 7 brush. If you have more hooded eyes, you want smaller detail brushes like this. This is going to be your best friend. If you are someone who has more of what I call the window wiper eyes, where you're not very hooded and you just got tons of beautiful wide open lid space, you are lucky. You can go with a more fluffy crease brush. So I'm just going to start with this one, and I am going to go ahead and start with this shade right here, Bucked. Now, the goal of this is to just create contour in the eyes, to shape everything. In fact, you know what? I'm going to come out and say you don't even need necessarily an eyeshadow palette. If you are just more of a minimalist and you want something simple, you can go ahead and just use your bronzer for this. I'm going to aim my brush like this, a very light hand, and I'm just going to put this into the crease. Window wiper motions, not fluffing this out too much, just creating that shadow on the eye. You want to keep blending until everything just looks perfectly diffused. Once you feel like you've deposited most of that product into the crease, then you can start moving outward, blending outward, and that's when you're going to get the best blend. Make sure you're tapping off the excess, and blending is key. When you guys watch YouTube videos and you're watching eyeshadow tutorials, even my eyeshadow tutorials, you're seeing a sped up version of it. Blending takes time. There is a lot that goes into a blend, and in fact, it is the most important part of eyeshadow, is just being patient and blending things out. Obviously, if you haven't guessed already, we are going for a very neutral eye look. So now that I feel like I have really blended that out well, I've got a nice contour going on the eyes. So I'm going to go into this deeper shade Endgame. I'm going to stick with the same brush. Dip it in just one time. I'm going to focus this on the outer corner of the eye, and I actually like to dab. And I bring it about, I would say, 3/4 of the way in, and I just dab. And then I start to blend things out in circular motions, and you can bring that just up into the crease. When you put a deeper shadow on the outside of the eye, it's going to make things come in like this. This does deepen the look up quite a bit, but I still think it's daytime appropriate. So the shadow is very pigmented. I dipped my brush in one time and I got all of this color out of it. You do want to make sure that you are bringing your shadow somewhat out this way. This is going to head and also elongate the eyes as well. This is a good thing to note because sometimes if you just leave dark shadow sitting just right on the lid, you're actually closing things off too much, in my opinion, and you're not doing any justice for the natural shape of the eye. So now we're going to go ahead and go in with a shimmer shade. I want to go ahead and use the shade Barely Baked. I'm going to go in with this gold, and I'm going to go in right with my finger, starting in the inner corner. I'll even bring that up into the crease, and I will blend that out right into that deeper shade that I just laid down on the outer corners. Now, if you want to kick it up a notch and give it just a little bit of extra dimension, this shade right here, Reputation, which is a deeper, more of like a burnished brown shade, I pick up just a little bit of that on my finger as well, and I will tap that right where that gold shade meets with that darker brown. Blend that outwards. It just gives an even more ombre blended out effect, and I think it looks beautiful. I'm going to take a flat brush like this. We're going to go ahead and line the lower lash line. This is an Alamar Cosmetics brush. It doesn't have a name, but it is just a very flat, what I like to call a liner brush. I'm going to dip in again to the shade Endgame, and I'm going to press this directly along the lower lash line. I'm not blending this out. I am just pressing this all along the lower lash line. I am actually going to skip on the liner on the upper lash line area. I do like a wing liner, but for the shape of my eyes being almond, sometimes I feel like it closes my eyes off, and that is definitely not the look I am going for. Now this is a pencil brush that I'm going to take. I'm going to dip into the shade Bucked, and I'm just going to go ahead and smear this along the lower lash line right over top of where I placed the shade Endgame. And this will help blend that out, but it'll also add a little bit of dimension to the lower lash line. By using a smaller pencil brush like this, I'm not dragging things down. I'm keeping things in place. I'm not going to end up with raccoon eyes or anything like that. It's important. You don't want to have shadow dragging down right here because you're dragging your eyes down. We don't want that. Now that that is beautifully blended out, I am really liking how this eye look is turning out. Let's go ahead and highlight the shade Bribe using the same pencil brush that I cleaned off. These little shadow switches, I call them, are so handy. They're called like brush cleaners technically. They're just like a little sponge right there on the inside. Mine is so dirty, please ignore that. But they come in handy when you're wanting to use the same brush with different shadow colors and shades. So go ahead and dip into the shade right here, Bribe. I'm just gonna brush that along the brow bone here. Dip back in. I'm gonna use this on the inner corners. Nothing too crazy. This color isn't extremely pigmented. It's more of like a satin finish if you ask me, but I think it adds just the perfect amount of light to the corner of the eyes and along the brow bone. Nothing too intense. You could go in with your highlighter if you wanted to and do the same thing. That works perfectly for me. So for mascara, I'm going to be using the Too Faced Better Than Sex. Mascara is very personal, so it's very hard for me to even recommend a mascara because everybody has different wants and needs. When it comes to a mascara, I prefer brush hairs like this, typically over the silicone brushes, although I do love the Benefit Roller Lash. If you are someone who wants more length, I would definitely go for a roller lash. If you like more thick, dense, more volumized with a little bit of length, you want some lift, I would say the Milk Makeup Kush Mascara. The Too Faced Better Than Sex is an awesome option if you want something more drugstore. I know a lot of people love the L'Oreal Lash Paradise, the L'Oreal Voluminous. I like a lot of the CoverGirl Volume Blast mascaras. Those are fantastic as well. So there are some options for you there. Now, I tend to get a lot of transfer on the top of my lid for my mascara. So I like to gently lift like this and then apply my mascara to prevent that transfer from happening. Now, typically with mascaras, 2 coats is going to give you the most drama, I like to say, I guess. The most volume, the most lift. So obviously mascara makes a huge difference. Now, another thing I hear a lot of people say is that, oh, by the end of the day, I have black all around my eyes. It doesn't matter what mascara I use, what eyeliner I use. Using a little bit of that setting powder on the under eyes is really going to help that from happening because our skin does naturally produce oils all day long that by putting down powder, you're really going to help that or stop that from happening, especially with more emollient under eye products. You're kind of at risk for that bleeding and that transfer. But if you powder just a little bit on the under eyes, you're not going to have that happen. If a product is still doing that, then you need to move on because obviously it's just not working for you. All right, so this eye look is absolutely beautiful. Now that this is finished, I love the way that my mascara looks. The last touch is going to be a lip product. Now, I want to make sure you don't have nasty foundation lips like I do right now. Obviously, if you want something more long wearing, you can go for a liquid lipstick. I'm definitely going neutral today. My favorite liquid lipstick formula is the JEFFREE Star Velour Liquid Lips. These are my absolute favorite. I find them to be the most comfortable. My second favorite are the Kylie lip kits. Her mattes can be a little bit drying, but if you lay down a lip balm first, and this goes for any liquid lipstick, if you exfoliate your lips, lay down a nice balm, and then put a liquid lip on top of that, you're going to prevent a lot of that creasing, things settling into the fine lines in your lips, and it's going to just look a lot more emollient, fuller, and less dry. So that is a tip. Otherwise, look for more velour or velvet liquid lip formulas. Those are always going to be much less drying. I absolutely love the shades Birthday Suit, Gemini, I love I'm Nude, Christmas Cookie. Those are some of my favorite nude Jeffree Star lipstick colors. If you are someone who likes more of a bullet lipstick, the ColourPop Luxe lipsticks are my go-to. They are my favorites. The shade What's Your Sign is one of my favorite nudes. The shade Appy is beautiful as well. I will show you these, but these are just, for me, personally, my favorite nude lipstick shades. And I also love a good gloss. Some of my favorite glosses are the Morphe glosses. They just work so beautifully. I love the ColourPop Just a Tints as well. If you like something like this, it's a little bit more hydrating, not as opaque, check out these Just a Tints. They are fantastic, and not a lot of people talked about them, but they are so good and extremely affordable. I love the Persona gloss in the shade Peach. This is one of my favorite formulas as well. If you are someone who just wants a clear, just really glassy, ultra juicy lip, the Glossier lip glosses are just like, wow, out of this world. So, so beautiful. I think I want to go in with a gloss. I'm going to use my Morphe. This is in the shade Flower Crown, one of my favorite gloss shades. One thing I also like as well is laying down a lip liner, filling in my lips with a lip liner, and then laying down a gloss. All right, you guys, so there you have it. This is the completed look. I really hope that you guys found this tutorial helpful, that you were able to pick up a few tips and tricks along the way. I was going to do, you know, just like my foundation routine or just my eyeshadow routine, but I was like, no, let's just do it all together. A one-stop shop. I still have foundation lips going on right here, but nonetheless, the completed look, I think that this is beautiful. This is just perfect go-to glam. This is perfect for a night out even, or if you just want to step it up. I mean, the eye look you can make very simple if you wanted to, but this is a very versatile day to night look. Just effortless, beautiful makeup that looks like you didn't have to put a lot into it at all. Everything will work harmoniously with your skin. That is the main goal, is to find those products that work with your skin. And once you do that, you're going to have just a beautiful, flawless look. Give this video a huge thumbs up if you liked it, share it, and of course, be sure to subscribe to my channel before you go. Leave a comment down below of some of your ride or die complexion products. What are some ingredients that you know that just work the best for you? What are some of your all-time favorite nude lipstick shades? That's a fun one. I want to hear from you guys as well on that. Just want to say I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching, and I hope you all are having a beautiful day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye, guys!